Hey, Shalom Akim. First and foremost, call Halal Yahweh, by Shem Yahushai, by Shem Rakakwadash. And of course, double honors once again go out to the apostles, bishops, and elders, Great Millstone, who deserve double honor. Salutations. Salutations go out to the fellow Akim out there on the highways and byways, pushing this truth of all honesty and sincerity, trying to wake up the remaining, hopefully elect. All right, listen, now I'm out the DC camp. And as we see here goes the madman is at it again. This damn devil. All right, the so-called white man who is of the nation of Edom, descendants of Jacob's brother Esau. All right, it says launching balloons high into the atmosphere to unload sun-reflecting particles. Big climate solution or colossal disaster is the question. What, when you really think about it, has this devil done that actually was to benefit anybody? All right, as the scripture says, you know. Well, let's get that real quick. Let's see. You know, the madman. Whoops. There we go. Hold on. I believe that is. There we go. Let's see. All right. It's in the Apocrypha. Here it is. Sirach 14:5. He that is evil to himself, to whom will he be good? He shall not take pleasure in his goods. And we know that. You can think about Habakkuk's 2nd chapter. All right. This is a greedy fucking bastard. He's covetous. You know. Very covetous. And now that I said that, let's get, let's go into Sirach again. Let's see. Let's go to 10th chapter. All right. Hey. He's an unwise king. He's an unwise judge. All right. What do you expect from him? It says, a wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered. As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers. This world was given into the hands of the wicked. Job 9:24. So what do you expect? The motto of the New World Order is what? Expect no mercy. So what do you expect? All right. These are the people, the wicked. You know, read Psalm 73rd chapter. All right. He says, an unwise king destroyeth his people, but through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited. All right. It says, the power of the earth is in the hand of the Lord over all. Yes. It's the Most High is behind all this. You better believe. All right. He says, and in due time, he will set over it one that is profitable. All right. Now, let's skip down here. 7, pride is hateful before the Most High man, and by both doth one commit iniquity. All right. Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to the other, and it's in the process of doing so as we speak. All right. Here's the point. It says, verse 9, why is earth and ashes proud? There is not a more wicked thing than a covetous man. And that, ladies and gentlemen, Akim and Aqua, is whose hands we're in. Because what do we do as a nation? We turned our back on the Most High. We did not live up to that contract, which is a covenant. All right. And this is why we're suffering like we are. Actually, scripture says we deserve worse. All right. Which again shows what? The Most High's mercy still. All right. So we're in the hands of this idiot. All right. You think of, what was that cartoon? Pinky and the Brain. He says, why is earth and ashes proud? There is not a more wicked thing than a covetous man. For such an one setteth his own soul to sale. Because while he liveth, he casteth away his bowels. Is greedy, incompetent. How dare he thinks he's on par with the Most High. Continuing on, it says, when U.S. startup make sunsets released 2 weather balloons into the skies above Mexico's Baja California Peninsula last year, it kicked up a fierce debate about one of the world's most controversial climate solutions. The plan was for the balloons, filled with helium and a small amount of sulfur dioxide, to float high into the stratosphere. There they would burst, dispersing their load of sun-reflecting sulfur dioxide particles, and cool the Earth just a tiny bit. Some dismissed it as a stunt. It is not clear if any particles were actually released, or even if the balloons made it to the stratosphere. But the Make Sunsets experiment is significant for crossing a threshold when it comes to a hotly debated climate solution: solar geoengineering. All right. To its supporters, solar geoengineering is a fix we cannot ignore as the world hurtles toward climate disaster. For critics, it is a technology so dangerous we shouldn't even research it. My point earlier, look at all the things that are happening now as far as, let's just take the last 4 years. Yeah, we could go a decade, but let's just limit it to 4. All right. Since this time, you had all these exercises, all right, that have gone on, and we know these exercises have turned into what? Actual so-called events. In particular, this medical emergency of the last 3 years that a lot of people were fooled into participating in. Wink, wink. All right, taking the serpent's juice. I'll leave it at that. Use your imagination. It's a sad testament to the fact that we have to speak in code. Supposedly, this is the land of the free, home of the brave. Can't say we didn't tell you. All right. So, and then, lo and behold, mysteriously, all the food processing plants go up in flames. They spontaneously combust. Wow. The culling of livestock. And now the chickens are catching hell. All right, now eggs have gone up. I mean, wow. One day you look out, you can find eggs, or you could, for like $2 something at the most. Well, not at the most, but depending on what you get. You got your, your brown eggs, you're gonna automatically pay more for, but in certain brands. But just on average, like store brands, $2, $3. Now you're looking at $8 and possibly going higher. All right. And what products that are made with egg, you got to consider that. So the price is going up there. I mean, this is all manufactured, people. This is manufactured. This is a man who wants you to come to him eventually for all things. We're under the curses as a people. Deuteronomy 28 and 48, we have to come to this devil anyway. But he's making it so he's doing a Genesis 25 and 25th chapter where, the birthright was sold. So he wants to get it back. And he's going to pull what? He's going to try to do to Jake what was done to him. All right. With the, lentils and all that. Because he had no integrity. He couldn't wait. All right. So he sold his birthright. He sold it. It wasn't stolen. All right. So now he's trying to do that in order to try to get his birthright back. It's not going to work. We already know that. But he's going to catch a lot of people. All right. And a lot of you have done it. All right. Because of ignorance, but willful ignorance. You've got all these tools at your hands, literally. What I'm recording with now, one of these smartphones. All right. That's your fault. You want to use it to look at ass and tits, world star hip hop, and bullshit like that, instead of finding out what's going on in the world. Specifically what's going on right in front of your eyes. All right. All right. This devil actually All right, he's making his move. All right, why? Revelation 12th chapter. You know, you understand the woman that's talking about the nation of Israel is talking about us. And that devil there is talking about him. It's talking about the so-called white man. It's not talking about the one who sits on the left hand of the Most High. It's not talking about the spiritual demon. All right. So here we are, and continuing on with this, it says cirrus cloud thinning targets wispy clouds higher up in the atmosphere, seeding them with aerosol particles in an attempt to thin them so they trap less heat. And he's been, I believe, when did he start first seeding clouds? Was it the 40s? Somewhere around there. So, I mean, this devil has been at it a long time. Most research method, however, is stratospheric aerosol injection. It involves spraying aerosols such as sulfur dioxide particles into that stratosphere more than 12 miles above the Earth's surface. Woo! To reflect sunlight back into space. It could be done with balloons or specialized airplanes able to fly at high altitude. All right, so here it is, the mad scientist, Dr. Frankenstein, whatever you want to call him. Salaki, sorry about that. All right, let me catch up to where it was. All right. Let's see. All right. It says the idea takes its cue from volcanoes. When Mount Pinatubo erupted in the Philippines in '91, the sulfur dioxide expelled high into the atmosphere had the effect of temporarily cooling the planet by 0.5 degree Celsius. That's nearly 1 degree Fahrenheit. So it says, why is solar geoengineering such a hot topic? The idea has been around since the 60s, but it's getting more attention because progress to tackle climate change is so far off space. All right, the world is on track to pass critical warming thresholds beyond which the chances of extreme flooding, drought, wildfires, and food shortages increase dramatically. Well, see, here's the thing. While they're trying to pass the buck off to the general public, because through their greed, they have fucked up this world. You remember, Revelation 11 and 18 is there for a reason. All right. So they've earned their fortunes. They've got extremely rich. Ezekiel 28th chapter. All right. To acquire all this wealth, there's no need for the world to be in the condition that it's in. But that goes back to what I was saying about, you know, if you didn't catch it earlier, this piece of shit, this so-called white man has a God complex. All right. All this world hunger and all this stuff could literally, with the wealth that they have, be done away with. Oh, I give it a week. You know, with the logistics and all that, I'm taking that into account because you normally would say, in a day, but realistically, that's not the case. All right. So a week or better, being realistic. They have those kind of resources, yes. But they choose not to because what I told you about that birthright. They know that they have a short time to rule. All right. So he's going to try to make everyone bow to him. All right. And make them get, when he talks about in Revelation 13 chapter, verse 16, he calls us all, both small and great, rich and poor, what? To receive a mark. What do you think that is? Another word for cause is compel. How is he going to compel you to this? Well, like I said, these manufactured famines that are coming. If you can't see this, even if you're not in the scriptures or anything, you're absolutely blind. All right? Not only that, this whole medical emergency crap the last 3 years, I'm just putting it like that, was a test. Who will listen to him? Who will obey without even giving it a thought? Yeah, there you go. And we would, it's like when we know the scripture, Sirach 12 and 10 on down, to the end where it talks about never trust thine enemy. All right, and it goes into further detail. It lets you know who you're dealing with. All right, and those characteristics. All right, and it fits him like a hand in, like a, a well-tailored glove. All right, you're actually going to trust someone to put something in you that they don't even know the results of. And don't use this excuse, well, you've been getting, certain shots since you were a baby. Well, that's different. That was, the studies into that over the decades. This is something else. The person that created that process said it didn't belong in the human body. So don't give me that fucking bullshit. You cannot compare the two. All right. But like I said, that was all a test for what he really wants. And for that, like I said, Ecclesiastes 1 and 9 is no new thing under the sun. You have to go back to Exodus 21st chapter. This is all about what? The slave. Remember, according to the Jewish people, we're all goyim. We're all cattle, right? That's what they want to treat you like. All right. Ultimately, they want you to be branded. All right. That's what you do with your slaves. Exodus 21. All right. So where the Most High is going to give a spiritual mark, this devil, having not that kind of power, has to do it what? In a carnal way. So he has to be physical about it. All right. So this is ultimately what he's herding the people towards. All right. It says, I wish there was no geoengineering. All right. But there are no other realistic options to stay below 2 degrees Celsius. While pretty much no one is claiming solar geoengineering could replace planet warming pollution cuts and solve climate change, supporters argue it could have a big planetary cooling effect for a relatively small price tag. And they go into a 2018 Harvard study. All right. The world needs to cut emissions. No question. David Keith, professor of applied physics and public policy at Harvard University. But it doesn't mean we can afford to ignore other climate solutions. I'm not saying we have to do solar geoengineering, but I think it's worth considering all the tools. See, this devil in his hubris just thinks he had all the answers. All right. And a lot of people can't see how dangerous that is. All right. It goes on to say, why is it so controversial? In the eyes of its opponents, the technology could open the door to an almost infinite number of potential negative consequences. You don't say. Just because we're desperate doesn't suddenly make solar geoengineering a good idea, because the risks are so immense. All right, there are fears fiddling with the planet's thermostat could alter rainfall patterns and shift monsoons with potentially devastating consequences for crops. Effects could vary across regions, with some areas reaping benefits while others are harmed, increasing the chance of conflict. When things go wrong, it is usually the poor people that suffer the most, and that's what we've been saying all along. All right, and ultimately, who's the poor that it concerns here? All right, and it is the nation of Israel. It says people are already suggesting African countries as a testing ground. Of course, that's where they test everything. All right, and you got to ask yourself why. And it's not because of the Hamites. All right, although that does factor in, but there's, something else to consider there. It says people are already suggesting African countries as a testing ground for the technologies. It is a distraction from the sort of policies and help that should be coming to Africa. Solar geoengineering could also damage the ozone layer. Again, you don't say. How long have you been asking that question? All right. Which shields Earth from harmful ultraviolet rays and is currently on track to repair itself after the success of a ban on ozone-depleting chemicals. But you did all of this. All right. And it says, then there are the difficulties of implementation. As the aerosol particles do not tend to remain in the atmosphere for more than about a year, solar geoengineering would have to be continuously maintained. If halted, there is a risk of termination shock, unleashing all the pent-up warming waiting in the wings, ready to slap the earth in the face. So why don't you just leave shit alone? But nah, this devil can't do that. It would also require unprecedented international cooperation. Frank Bierman, professor of global sustainability governance at Utrecht University in the Netherlands, told CNN it would mean that countries have to collaborate forever. He said, including those currently at war. All right, good luck with that. One of the biggest criticisms of solar geoengineering is it could be grasped by polluters as a way to continue polluting, and by governments as a distraction from policies to produce or reduce planet heating pollution. All right. It says, what's the progress so far? There has been a flurry of interest in the technology, especially in the U.S. Well, I wonder why. It says Congress allocated in 2019 $4 million to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration for stratospheric research, some of which was for solar geoengineering. And last year, the Biden administration announced a 5-year research plan to explore the concept. See all that green technology, right? You know, they're trying to get everybody to go into electric vehicles. And although, all right, the infrastructure is not even close to supporting that. And you got to ask yourself, why? Could there be an ulterior motive? Of course. And it's all about control, people. It's all about control. All right, skipping down. It says, let's see. It says, so far, outdoor experiments have been difficult to get off the ground and have faced heavy resistance. An attempt at Harvard, again, researchers to test a high-altitude balloon in Arctic Sweden in 2021 was abandoned after an outcry from local indigenous Sami people. A letter on behalf of the Sami Council says solar geoengineering entails risk of catastrophic consequences. So again, if the risk is so great, why would they want to continue with this idea? This man cannot help himself. He is destructive by nature. All right. Again, Habakkuk 2nd chapter. The soul is with him is not upright. That's verse 4. This is who you're dealing with. It says, as the world heats up and solar geoengineering shifts from sci-fi to mainstream, tussles between those who say there is an obligation to research it as a potential last chance solution and those convinced it is the path to catastrophe are only likely to increase. Critics like Bierman, however, remain unwavering in their opposition. It's very risky. It cannot be governed. It's unethical, he said. And it is one of the biggest dangers in the current climate policies. But guess what? They're just stupid enough to do it. Why? 2 Thessalonians 2nd chapter. This is who you're dealing with. He thinks he is on par. All right. Isaiah 14 chapter. All right. So there you go. So let's see. I will end it with this. So we will go to Revelation. Excuse my picture there. 11 and 18. It says, and the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come in the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants, the prophets, and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. So, hey, it doesn't look too good for the so-called white man, right? He's had it. Book of Obadiah. All right. That one little book says so much. Hey, so with that, until the next video, hey, shalom.